Hi, Jason Spangler here, the SanteeSwapper, back with another unboxing. This one is especially a cool one for me for two reasons mainly. One, I spoke to this guy on the phone, and he is an 80-plus-year-old Eagle Scout and earned his Silver Award as part of the old Explorer program back before 1958 when they still had the advancement system. So that's really cool for me to talk to someone like that and get this collection. He sent it to me on preview, which means that I have not seen anything in this box. I've not seen pictures. I can only kind of guess is what he had. I mentioned getting excited. The other reason why is because he grew up in Mississippi, and honestly, it's kind of rare for me to get collections from people in the South. Tend to get a lot of them from maybe people around Chicago or the Northeast or somewhere more heavily populated areas. But to get something from kind of maybe what you would call a deep South state is not it's pretty unusual for me. So kind of neat to see what we've got in here. So let me cut into the box and we'll show you what we got. All right, as you can see, I've got the box open here, and right on top we have some of his uniform items. So this is what I'm guessing is going to be that really time capsule collection that if you watch some of my unboxing videos, you'll hear me talk about. Someone was involved in scouting for a period of time, and they held on to those scouting items for decades and decades, certainly in this guy's situation. And I think from talking to him on the phone, he never got back engaged with the program. So it really is sort of a time capsule from the 1950s, including right on top here, the garters and the socks. So let me take out some items and we'll start to see a little bit of this guy's scouting history, which again, I spoke to him on the phone, so I know a little bit about what all he did, but here's a little bit of a clue. But let me kind of get some things out of the box and then we can talk about that. Look at the little Girl Scout stuff there. Very cool. All right. I just want to take some things off the top here and then see what else is in it. Get it all out for you guys. Okay. So he included photocopies of his two cards here, and he got his Eagle in Troop 25 of Corinth, Mississippi in 1955. And then also got his Explorer Award. Now, this is interesting. He got it December 14th of 55, so he almost got these at the exact same time. And I'm thinking that's what's going to be in these boxes, sure enough. So we'll show you this guy. This is his Eagle medal, and of course this is sterling silver as they would have been back in that day. The thing about identifying Eagle Scout medals is there's a couple of different giveaways. One would be looking on the back, and so you can see that this one has a flat back, which the way they manufactured that, it was designed so that the Scouts' parents or maybe some leadership could have engraved the Scout's name on the back of the medal. I tell you, that happened very rarely. You'll almost never find an Eagle medal from this time period that was engraved for whatever reason. Maybe it wasn't easy to do, but this coffin case with the Eagle medal in it, is really cool knowing it's dated 1955. And then this one here, as you see, it says on the coffin case, Explorer Silver Scout Award. And this is his medal, which I think is one of the most beautiful medals that the Scouts made. This design came from an earlier medal. This design with the Flying Eagle came from the original Air Scout Ace medal. And then the Boy Scouts kind of adapted, you might say, this design. This medal, I think, started about 1950, I believe, and went through the 1950s before the advancement program and the Explorer Scouts went away. Some of you who maybe are involved in the program now will recognize this design and say, oh, that looks a lot like the Venturing Silver Award, which then became, I believe, the Summit Award. And sure enough, the Venturing program was kind of taking pieces of this 1950s program and kind of bringing that back to life. And so you'll still see that symbolism there. So again, I'll hold it up closer just so you can see, but I think it's just an absolutely beautiful design. The medal has a little bit of dirt on it, so he definitely wore it, which would make perfect sense. I would wear this medal too if I'd gone through the program and done all the things you're supposed to do. There's a little bag here I won't get into of just some Girl Scout stuff. This is not unusual if you have like a scouting family, that there could have been someone who was involved in Girl Scouts. And assuming that this is a family member, the date here is October 1979, so it could have been a kid later on would have been involved in the Girl Scout program. All right, here's a little envelope. Looks like patches. So get these guys out and see what we got. Sam Houston Area Council Webelos. And then there are some Gulf Coast Council camporees, and then Camp Charles Howell. Now this tells you right off the bat that this was something he traded for at the 1957 Jamboree. Or he did, I believe, go to Philmont, and we'll probably see evidence of that in here as well. As he told me that he went to this junior leader training conference in Philmont, and this was the one that lasted like a whole month. I've talked to a couple of other scouts who did this back in the day, and you literally went to Philmont. I think he told me he was gone for like 37 days or something. It's pretty amazing. But the reason why I say that, this patch is from, I believe, Michigan, and so someone growing up in Mississippi would not have gotten that. So 1957 Jamboree had a Valley Forge. All of these are sewn, so these are probably the ones that came off of his uniform. And if he's involved at that time period, it wouldn't surprise you to think he stuck around long enough to get these from 1960. Although he did get his Eagle in 55, so that shows he was kind of still hanging around the program. And then here's a 1956 camp patch from Bayonne Boy Scouts. I guess that would have been Louisiana. I'll have to look that up. Shift Scout Reservation, the well-known National Training Center, National Capital Area. Now this is really interesting. I'm from North Carolina. Well, I live in North Carolina. I've lived here for over 20 years. I'm not sure I've seen this one. Occoneechee Council Navy Cruise. There's not. Occoneechee Council is like Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a big stretch there, what you would sort of call the triad, if you will, the triangle. I don't know a whole lot about sea scouting there, but a Navy cruise could also have been an explorer event. I'll have to ask some of my friends in that council about that. Now, this is a much more modern patch. I say he never got back involved in scouting, but this tells me maybe he did, because that's an assistant scoutmaster patch from, I believe, the 1970s. Then the canoe base here, Charles L. Sumner's. This is a much more modern Eagle patch from the 70s. So again, I don't know, could have been, maybe he was a Cub master. I got to do my homework here. But this is definitely 1950s. This little Philmont, they call this a $quarter, just that's about the size of it. And this is the Philmont patch from the 1950s, before they had those arrowheads. And then this might be of interest to someone. These are the knots for someone who earned the Silver Award. So that's not something that's very common today, because you wouldn't have many scouts today earning that. And then, of course, he was at the 1957 Jamboree, so even though he was from Mississippi, he could have traded for this patch. So let's slide these over. We've got a couple of other little pouches here we can look at and see. Here's some Cub Scout patches. And these are very modern, so these might go with that Cub Master patch. So again, whether it was him, a family member, somebody got involved with the Cub Scout program, that would make sense. And let's see what this is. All right. So here's some, I don't think that's 1950s. This would be Chickasaw, which would match up with him being there in Mississippi. But it's also possible that in 1955, the OA Lodge there wouldn't have had a flap yet. But let's look and see. This one's from out in California, so again, doesn't quite match up, but probably something he traded for. And then this one from Kickapoo. Now, this is interesting because on there is a Region 5 symbol, which Region 5 would have been that area that he lived in, like Alabama, Mississippi, those parts. And so this could have been a 1964 Jamboree. I'm sorry, 1954 Kickapoo. This might be a conclave patch. I'm not sure. I'll have to do my homework on that. And then this one says Chippewa, which Chippewa would have been more of that Charles Howell would have been up in Detroit. And then this one, I think, is another one maybe from Michigan. This guy here, I'll have to look him up. This is definitely an older flat, but I don't have this one memorized as to where this lodge is located. And then Kalani, this is the classic from Chicken on a Stick, right, from Houston, Texas. And then this Cato is from Florida. So again, something you very likely could have traded for at a Jamboree. And then some more of those Chickasaws, and then another one from Houston, but again, with a plastic back. So definitely a different time period. Okay, we can slide over here. Here's Camp Karankawa, Gulf Coast Council, which is the Gulf Coast Council in, I believe, Texas, not the one that's in the southeast. 57 Jamboree, Philmont Neckerchief, 1960 National Scout Jamboree. A couple of neckerchief slides. Here's that little classic bell one we've seen a lot of, and there's a Region 5, which would have probably been one that he could have worn as a, going with the Mississippi crowd to that Jamboree. This is Keystone Council. This is something in Pennsylvania. He might have traded for that at the Jamboree. This is a women's scarf. I know some of you have seen this before, but let me just hold it up. The way you can tell it's the women's scarf is that it's fringed, and it's also going to be a rectangle. I won't fold it all the way out, but it's kind of sort of a little bit of a different material than the cotton that they used for the neckerchiefs. Couple of neckerchief slides from Philmont. This one's kind of had a little airbrush paint to it, and that one's more of the original one. Let's see what this guy is. This is an old neckerchief. Area 5D Fellowship. So this would have been a conclave, and doesn't have a year on it. This might be something I'll have to lean on some of my collecting friends to find out what the date is. But this one, I'm guessing would have been from the 1950s. I might could look at that symbol and kind of figure out which OA lodge it was, because some of the OA lodges have symbols that are recognizable. And then he's got a sash here. This is pretty cool. There's some writing on it. It says, Order of the Arrow 53rd Anniversary National Conference, Lawrence, Kansas. Brothers in Service, Leaders in Camping. It has his name on it, so it doesn't have like a signature from an Ian or Goodman or anyone. But sometimes you'll see that when you get sashes from old OA conferences where the founders of the OA would have been there. And then here's a Brotherhood sash that hasn't come out of the packaging yet. And then this is a little guy here, just a little, camp-made thing, a little bearskin rug. Let's see this one. Oh, okay. I didn't, he really didn't tell me what was going to be in the box. So all of this is a total surprise to me. So here is a red felt vest. Again, we'll take a look at the time period here. Well, I was kind of looking for this. So I mentioned that he went to this Philmont Junior Leader Training Camp, and here's the patch for that. And so this is the one where he would have spent all that time out at Philmont. Then this is that Philmont dollar with the segments. I don't have all these memorized, but essentially back in the 50s, these were all the program pieces that you could do at Philmont, and you would earn the segments to go around your patch. And then we haven't seen this one yet, but Area 5 Conclave, it's possible 1958. I'll have to do some math. That could match up with that neckerchief. And then he's got his Chickasaw patch here. Here's another area conclave from that area. Of course, he went to the 57 Jamboree, and then there's his one from going to the University of Kansas NOAC in 1958. And on the back, then we see some of these more modern patches, like right off the bat, the one I saw is here, the Sam Houston Council. So it looks like he could have gotten back involved in the 70s, been involved in that bicentennial time period. It looks like maybe in Houston was where he was doing a little bit of scouting. And then finally, here's again, more evidence of 1976. Here's a bicentennial. We already saw some Cub Scout stuff, so there's somebody who was a Weeblo. And then this other neckerchief, got one more neckerchief, and this is 10 Mile River. So, you never know how people get stuff, trade for stuff. This is from New York, obviously, so you got that. So altogether, a really neat collection. Love getting collections that have old Explorer items because I collect, that's what I call senior scouting, the Air Scouts, the Sea Scouts, the Explorers, all that good stuff. I think it's a really interesting twist on the program the Boy Scouts of America had. So what will happen in this case is I will message him back later today and send him an offer. He really just wanted to get these into the hands of someone who would appreciate them because his family is downsizing. They're actually leaving Mississippi and moving into a retirement type community setting. And so they're trying to downsize, and that's the reason why he reached out to me. But I'll make him a very fair offer for all these things, and hopefully we'll have a deal. Thanks again for watching. Jason Spangler, the SanteeSwapper. Go to my website, scoutpatchcollectors.com. There you can find more unboxing videos like this. Find out everything I've got going on in this hobby and in scouting. Appreciate it very much.